did you get started in this?
Well, you know, actually, Tom, I got started in life much like most other people. I was born a baby.
Ah,
Yeah.
in a hospital?
In fact,
Oh,
in
my
fact.
goodness.
And I just happen to have an inquisitive mind and a
Mhm.
genetic defect passed on to me by my father and my uncle, and I became an engineer like everyone else.
Oh, yeah.
And
Have to
so,
go out there and make money.
Well, I didn't really have to follow that career line to make money. I had to follow it because I was compelled to solve problems.
Okay.
That's just part of my nature. And after about 20 years of doing engineering and solving problems, I got a little bored with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I got some kids that were entering preschool. And, you know, they'd come home with the catch of the day.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they were always getting sick and giving it to my wife and I. And we got tired of the party line from the doctors, which was drugs and orange juice.
Yeah.
So I started to investigate some natural means for, you know, accomplishing health care for them and for us, because we'd get colds too.
You're right.
And I guess one thing led to another. And you had one part engineer and one part scientist and one part parent,
Mm-hmm.
and add a little bit of herbology, heat and stir, and poof, you get a midlife crisis.
Well, that's not the kind of midlife crisis I was looking for, but, you know, hey.
So indeed, I ended up spending the better part of the 90s doing medical research. I had spent a career in engineering, designing medical equipment.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was pretty familiar with what the doctors do and how they do it, and I designed all sorts of crazy experimental medical machines. And I had seen the synthesis of overt technology with heinously primitive technique
Right.
into what we call modern medicine.
Right.
And so I started to really look at the antithesis of that, which is the herbology and natural medicine. And I started doing research on that and experimenting with different herbs and different natural medical therapies and stuff, and started to come up with some pretty darn interesting stuff that worked very well.
Yeah.
And these were remedies or therapies that applied to everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
And you might ask, you know, how could some engineer living up in the mountains somewhere come up with this stuff? I'm not classically trained, and I say, well, that's how.
Well, I mean, think about it. You know, our ancestors, they weren't formally trained. It was handed down through, you know, the family of, okay, so you take this herb, you heat it up in some water, and you drink it, and
Absolutely.
lo and behold, it addresses some symptom or disease.
Absolutely. For thousands, tens of thousands of years, they found medicinal herbs
Mm-hmm.
in the pyramids with the pharaohs. We've been doing this as a species for a long, long time. And in fact, what I used to find is that when you want to find something new, look in the past.
Oh, yeah. I'm a strong believer that, you
Yeah.
know, history repeats itself. If you want an answer, look behind you.
Absolutely.
Because it's there.
A lot of this stuff was considered heretical back then,
Mm-hmm.
simply because it was too far advanced. And as time goes on, we get to a point where we're actually able to understand and accept it. And then we go, oh, look what I found. But it's not really, look what I found. It's kind of, look what I rediscovered.
Right, right.
And so there are a lot of things out there in the world. And as I looked around my house, I was living in the mountains,
Mm-hmm.
I found that my yard was filled with medicinal herbs. And as I studied these, I found that they were quite useful indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Being ever the scientist, the pragmatist, and the engineer, I would actually work with them to see, did I get what I expected?
Right.
I'm not the kind of fellow that will say, well, this herb is known to do this, so we'll use that. I'd say, well, they say it does that. Let's find out if it really does. And so you mix in that problem solving with the scientific method, and you get some formulations that are surprisingly effective.